Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you today to our webinar, Power Your Next series on SharePoint, the underutilized collaborative platform. We've got a couple people still coming in right now, so if everybody doesn't mind, I think I'm just going to go back on hold here for a minute, just give folks just another minute or so to get logged in, and then we will get started. So I'll be right back with you in just a minute or two. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So again, I want to welcome everyone today to our Power Your Next series on SharePoint, the underutilized collaborative platform. Certainly appreciate you taking some time out of your day today to join us. A couple of very quick housekeeping items I'd like to mention before we get started. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, and we certainly do encourage those, please use the GoToWebinar question box. You can submit those at any point in time during the webinar, and we'll be answering those questions following the presentation. We are also recording today's presentation. You'll get an email tomorrow with a link to this recording. So today we've got Rod Donovan, an O365 solution developer, and Bert Burney, a cloud and Office 365 solution architect, joining us today, and will be presenting today's webinar. I'll be back at the end to facilitate any questions that you might have, and once again want to encourage you to type any questions you might have into the question box. But I think that's for it for quick intros and housekeeping. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Bert to get us started.
All right, great. Thank you, Rocky. We appreciate the intro, and we appreciate everyone taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us on this session today for talking about SharePoint. And as Rocky said, your presenters today are myself, a solution architect here for Office 365 and cloud hosting for Velocio, and my associate Rod Donovan, a SharePoint developer here at Velocio as well. So for today's agenda, we have for you a couple of different items to talk with you about here. I'm going to lead off with Office 365, and then Rod is going to delve into the meat and the potatoes of today's session about SharePoint Online. And then we're going to wrap up the session with a couple of Q&As. Now, you will be able to submit your questions through the chat box throughout this session, and we certainly encourage you to do so. We do want this session to be interactive. But again, at the end of the presentation, we do have some time carved out to be able to actually speak with you and answer those questions that you have for us. So keep that in mind as we go through the presentation today, and we'll get you all covered with the information that you need to know. So without further ado, as we really think about SharePoint Online and Office 365, one of the things we really want to focus on is the fact that cloud is really integral to business transformation. So we're talking today about SharePoint Online, but it's important to understand that businesses and organizations today are really going through a digital transformation, and cloud is a key component or an integral piece of that. So much so that 71% of strategic buyers are citing scalability and business agility as decision factors in their decision-making process. And so that's really important because it helps organizations have the ability to leverage economies of scale and expertise and really reshape how they engage on a day-to-day business with their customers, and of course drive new and more rapid sources of innovation along their product lines. So a lot of key opportunities that cloud provides organizations across the board. So as we start thinking about cloud and Office 365, and of course SharePoint Online, a key component of Office 365. I think one of the things we really want to start out with is, why is it important to move to Office 365, and what are some of those top business values? So there's no service to upgrade, patch, or maintain because Office 365 is natively in the Microsoft Cloud, in Microsoft Azure. It allows you to work from any location on any device. You get apps to get feature updates and to have increased collaboration among your coworkers and peers. It allows you to worry less by feeling more secure with Office 365 and protecting your data and helping your businesses run smoothly. And then also working together in terms of collaboration. It makes it easier to work together with tools for email, virtual meetings, and document collaboration across the board. Also, one of the things we want to talk about here is the core products of Microsoft Office 365. And there's several different products that are available in Office 365. Most commonly, people are aware of Microsoft Outlook and OneDrive for Business. Of course, we're going to learn more about SharePoint Online today. And then, of course, Teams and Skype for Business. So Microsoft Outlook is the personal information manager from Microsoft that's included in the Microsoft suite. Most often it's used mainly as an email application, but it also includes a calendar, task manager, and a contact manager. You can also take notes, journal, and do some web browsing with it as well. OneDrive for Business really is the online storage for data and documents that's included with all Office 365 plans. All of the Office 365 plans include at least 1 terabyte of storage, and the enterprise level 3 and level 5 for Office 365 are going to come with unlimited OneDrive storage space. So that's a great opportunity because that takes away some of the risk if your users lose a device or drop it or it becomes, rendered useless in some capacity. As long as you save that content to OneDrive, you'll be able to download and consume that content anywhere you have a reliable internet connection by logging in and authenticating to the Office 365 portal. Teams, of course, is a chat-based workspace and communication hub that is very prevalent and used almost exclusively in a lot of organizations now today as they make that transition from formerly Skype for Business into the team communication platform. It is used to connect with peers and collaborate with stakeholders even outside of your organization, and does have the feature set and functionality to be able to create team channels to work on special projects with other stakeholders. And then last but not least, as the session goes into, SharePoint Online is used for creating websites and sharing corporate content across the user organization. Microsoft Office 365 is a category leader across the board. There's a lot of productivity tools, as we showed you on a slide previously. But it's definitely a category leader in not only chat-based workspace, but also email, calendars, video and voice recordings, and content management, and of course, in social resources. So we definitely want to make sure that we keep track of all the different ways that we can communicate using Office 365. And as I said before, Microsoft Teams, and then also Microsoft Yammer is an opportunity to stay connected with coworkers and have the ability to do communications across the board internally with your coworkers. You also have the ability with Microsoft Yammer to be able to connect and create different types of work groups and spaces to create special events where you can communicate and send out kudos or areas of praise across the Yammer platform, commemorating certain events and congratulating coworkers on specific projects and things across that nature as well. And then I think the other thing we wanted to really talk about at a high level is the ability of being able to use Office, OneDrive, and SharePoint collaboratively together. So depending on what the workloads are and depending upon what activities you're actually trying to do in terms of collaborating with peers and associates and coworkers, is to figure out what makes the most sense, a deployment and sharing of content across OneDrive, or maybe even creating a document library and an intranet using some of the tools and resources that are available with SharePoint Online, which Rod's going to talk a little bit more about in the next couple of slides. So on this last slide here, we're going to talk about some of the modern content and the sharing and discovery within SharePoint and SharePoint Online. The ability to access sites and content anywhere with internet in your pocket, because with the Microsoft Office 365 stack, you do have the ability to consume that content very similar across all devices, whether it be a tablet, a mobile device, or a desktop or a laptop device. You'll be able to navigate the intranet intelligently with recommendations, and you also have the ability to, see and stream beautiful team sites and publishing sites natively directly out of SharePoint, even with the mobile app that's there. So a lot of exciting things as far as SharePoint is concerned, which is a key component of many plans of Office 365. And so we just wanted to, challenge you to think about not only the opportunity with SharePoint and SharePoint Online, which Rod is going to talk about, but some of the other different feature sets that are available to you through your Office 365 licensing. And certainly feel free to reach out to us after this session or anytime with your sales team or us directly, and we'd be happy to give you additional information and content about Office 365 in terms of feature sets and licensing across the board. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Rod for his presentation on SharePoint, and beginning with the SharePoint evolution. Rod?
Thank you, Bert. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. So SharePoint has been around since 2001, and it's had a handful of iterations across time, and there's been places where it's really jumped up and moved to the top of the pile of great things to do with, and then it kind of slides back down and people forget about it. We're at one of those wave points now where it's really cycling up to the forefront of the Microsoft platform and the whole ecosphere. Because of all the different scenarios and the cloud platform that Microsoft is building out for everyone, for all of us to use, the way that the SharePoint Online is cloud native based, it's allowing it to interact with all of their other systems and applications quite easily as we go forward and try to build out each particular system for each particular client. It's blank enough canvas across the board where there's really nothing you can't do with it, from the aspect of we need a website that does X. Everyone in the beginning was always just a file share, so that you can everyone had their old boxes laying around the office, and it was put this in the marketing's S drive or the Q drive or the P drive. All those things that kept, you had to maintain those servers. Moving everything up to the cloud now, it's allowing everyone to start, sharing those documents and have single point of access for single documents across the board. You don't have things flying around in emails anymore. Everyone also had an intranet where the company and the HR and IT team, finance and accounting, they would all share their documents out from that aspect of now we have one place to go. The way this system is being built out now from an intranet standpoint, it's a communicative, collaborative platform, not just a list of files that here we go. You always go out to this place to get the latest document that you need. The way that the teams internally can interact with everyone is really the next space that it's going to. And again, they're pushing this intelligent workplace scenario, that concept where everyone can get in there and work within the documents, work with each other, work within the teams and Yammer and Stream and all the other scenarios and applications that are there. The other big application that's being pushed and way to use the system is to have it as an extranet, where you can actually have multiple, your clients, your contractors, whoever you want can access your documents from the security of the Microsoft Active Directory platform into certain places and locations within the SharePoint environment. So that's pretty exciting, where we can all of a sudden start letting people in to do certain things, and they don't have to, I have to send them the document, you have to send it back, I have to have someone else approve it. All those things can be built within the system itself. So leading up to that is the business process engine itself. So it's no longer just a storage of all your documents. Now you can collaborate on them, but you can also use in the Power Platform, design in extensive flows and workflows and Power Apps that can actually do distinct, unique jobs within the system that used to have to write larger programs for. Now you can actually write some quick applications to build that stuff out, to push documents along, to move documents forward, to actually even open up and read the videos that you upload into Stream and scan that text, and based on what was said in that recording, do something else with it, notify other people. So the interactive play that the systems are using is quite astonishing, and it's fun to be part of this portion of it. I wanted to show you a quick client example here. We've got a client, Library of America, and they're a nonprofit publishing house based in New York City. And they went from their classic shared drive with about 60 gig of data over 4 different main drives, and everyone, the editorial team would have their drive, the accounting team would have theirs, and everything would then get emailed back and forth. We've moved them into a SharePoint system where now they can actually collaborate on one document. They don't have to send it 4 different places to get different scenarios. But also we can now have their contract editors and even proofreaders come in and work on particular documents at particular times. And we can control that from a security aspect. So they don't have to go down and print it off, someone in Florida print off a 30-page document. They can now work in line and write comments on the same document that the editor is approving those comments as they go. And with the versioning aspect of each one of the documents that they're working with, it really does allow them to be that much more flexible and get books to market sooner. Some of the other examples of people using the system, chemical companies, and they've got workflows to assure that the compliance is being appropriately applied to the chemicals, the trucks, the drivers themselves, and using workflows for onboarding new employees to make sure that they go through certain sets of training and have watched the videos and done all the right processes, filled out all the right forms. We have another HVAC company where they're enhancing their bidding process to those contracts, is similar to Library of America, where we're letting outside people in to interact with their documents and fill out their price sheets and choose the items that they want to bid on for particular projects. And now that the client, as in the old company, before the salesman would always manage all this stuff on multiple spreadsheets, now it's in the system where everyone can interact with that data as it's happening. And then the last great example, which we'll move over here into, is a technology company. Again, the onboarding new hires and that workflow process, the IT help desk, those kind of tickets, PTO requests. This is kind of your classic intranet applications, but now they can get that much more advanced. And I'm going to switch over now to a online demo, and I'm going to show you, everyone, some of how we ourselves, Velocio, use our SharePoint system. And it's a straightforward site from a graphics perspective. There's a one class or one type of customer that wants it all dressed up and all sorts of colors and everything else, and really splashy and explosive. We went down the path of utilitarianism, where it's, hey, here's some pretty graphics, but let's get to the meat as fast as possible. So we've got 4 main sections of the site: our intranet, our help desk information, our client sites, and then our Velocio Partner Alliance. Within the intranet, that's now broken out to a handful of the classic scenarios. You've got the human resources information, your marketing information, your IT team, accounting, sales, professional services. So along this scenario, for each one of these, and these are all subsites designed within the system, the HR team has their own site that they can interact with. And Carlene and Trent, they can be the head of the site and make the changes on that site as they see fit. With the IT team, theirs is going to look similar, but they're going to have the Yammer feed built out and some of the calendar, and get into, here are the announcements. So each one of these things is a distinct web part within the SharePoint environment. And SharePoint in and of itself is just a web server. It's a collection of applications designed for the web to present the data however you may want to present it. Here's the classic of, let's create an IT ticket. Fill out the form, it goes through a process, it walks you through that scenario. And then for all of those that get completed, They go into a standard list here in the back end that runs off some processes and sends some emails out to people, for how they want to deal with those particular tickets. So it's simple, it's efficient. We can do a lot with it, but a lot of times it's this simple scenarios of, all right, let's get this more efficient. This process that we've just identified, we can do more with. For the client sites, and this is where something that, as all of the Velocio clients, as soon as we have a client come on board, we come in and set them up, into CRM, which generates the site over here within, give me 1 second. It sets them up within our system, which pulls up a standard classic template that we designed to say, all right, each one of them is going to have a certain set of data. It's going to have shared documents, and it's going to pre-build certain folders for each one of our clients. And then there's going to be a Velocio only document. So we have the shared documents and the Velocio only documents. The cool thing about this is that for any of our clients that want access to share data with our system, if we're transferring large files on a migration, or they want to come in and check on status stuff, we can give clients access to just these set of folders within our whole environment. So that's pretty handy when that process comes aboard. And they can also, we can give them certain rights if they want to add documents, modify documents, add folders. This pictures folder that I just added earlier, I added this pictures folder to this particular demo site about an hour ago, and actually uploaded pictures straight from my phone. So I took a screenshot of the site in my phone, made the folder, and then was able to upload those documents. So if we had a workflow, a flow based on that, that could then drive other applications to scan that data, do some OCR on that data that's in that picture, or even train the flow to say, all right, this is a building. If I'm an HVAC person and I can actually tell the difference between building X and building Y, we can actually get into the cognitive process within the Microsoft system to really interact with these systems to drive other data and pull data out of these documents. So if this particular image was of an invoice, we can say, all right, scan this, the invoice should have the price right around here of the amount to be paid, and that can then generate other events within the system. So we're getting to that kind of powerfulness in this process. Also here within the system, the sites that are the basics, you can then build out. We can add in multiple contacts and build off processes around those. We can add in Twitter feeds. We can also add in special distinct information for this particular client. And each one of your departments that you guys have, you can design each one of their own sites they can build up. For the for the marketing team, they might want to have a social media page where they can post their own stuff, but also keep an eye on other clients and other customers that they're interested in looking at. And you can build these pages, and each one of these web parts is a distinct little object that can then come through the system and say, all right, I want to watch the Valaris Group or Alamo or InTouch, and keep an eye on their systems all within from one ecosystem. So you don't have to jump out to their particular sites. You can kind of manage those things. So you can bring in external data, you can leverage that against your internal data to then make other decisions within your business. So it's getting pretty powerful along those lines. When we, and the fact that it's such an open system can be a little daunting at first. The way we try to go through the process is to just start small and say, let's pick an object, let's pick a team. If your IT team wants to do something special, let's go work with them. If the HR has a better need for the system to start off, once people start using it and realizing these other applications are available and these other processes can be built into it, then you get a lot of buy-in from the community, and people start to actually enjoy it as a business process tool. That whole aspect of, all right, what else can we do with it? And that leads me down into the next section here. When we start up the systems and turn everything on, you get a basic kind of ugly default system of, all right, here it is, what would you like to do with it? The way that we can interact with it and then spin up new sites for any particular need the client may have, you can get into something really special and exotic looking with the movement of the pictures and how do you want to present the data to the users? What are they going to do with it? How are they going to be the most useful with it? These all tie into the calendars around the system, around the company. You could present the data multiple different ways with the basic team site, that if we were designing something within SharePoint, we want to tie this to Microsoft Teams, they're all using the same back end. They're all using this same process to pull that data in, react to it, get up the need for it, and then share that data with other people. So that kind of interactivity and people working on the same document at the same time with each other is really some of the, the special aspects of it, as well as into the calendar aspect and the events and some of the other applications. And there are more apps being added every day to things that you can do here within the system. From a security standpoint, all the sites are designed, straight up, here's a way to manage them, here's your site, who do you want to have access to them? You can add security within the SharePoint system itself that can be independent of Active Directory, or you can start leveraging Active Directory groups so that those can apply the special task and special rights to those particular sites and subsites that you build from that architecture. So in that process, when we help you design these systems and the things that might you want to do with them, the security questions will be prevalent across the board. And these all tie back into the Active Directory stuff, but you can also build smaller sites with just 2 people allowed to go do something. So it's, that kind of flexibility is fantastic. And it's pretty easy not to work yourself into a soup bowl of nonsense where you start colliding all your data and one folder is open to you, but the documents inside of it aren't. That kind of scenario, we can kind of keep everything on the straight and narrow path of, though this explicitly says this, and all these subfolders, you get the same access and everything kind of gets a parent-child relationship. With the system itself and the way that you can build up these lists and what these lists can do, you can import a full Excel document and you can export to Excel. So the powerfulness of the document libraries, the document list can be leveraged. All right, these lists contain this data. We don't have to use Excel anymore, but these things can then drive other systems within the process. And then here's the and then from a full-on partner aspect of it, we can do a lot of things where you can build up entirely different lines of company, and each one of them can have its own scenario, distinct and independent from a graphics and layout standpoint, or you can carry in and do the same scenarios with the with all of your navigation and the mega header that will be consistent across the systems themselves. Now we switch back over to and talking about the supply of the systems themselves and how we share all the data, this PowerPoint that we're showing right now is actually being worked off of my personal OneDrive, which is a version of SharePoint. And as we go through this, Bert can be actually modifying this document 2 slides ahead of where I get to keep me on track. So it's pretty neat along those lines where it's as collective and collaborative as you can get. There's not too many things that we've had to say no to anybody so far that they couldn't build, because it is an open-ended website concept with multiple apps allowed in the system to do multiple different things. You kind of run out of things to say no to pretty quickly. And now with the aspect of the Microsoft Power Platform, it's really becoming quite popular to build small Power Apps and use the Microsoft Flow engine to move documents and move process and drive other events within the company. And then at the end of it, coming back down to your PowerPoint process, or Power BI process, to actually do some analytics on that to say, all right, this just happened, these other things are happening, this is where the sales leads are, this is the closed sales if you're on that side of it, this is my manufacturing plant, and all of a sudden we're running out of widget one. These systems can now be tied together to the point where the analytics of the BI can drive, summarized BI can drive events within the system and tell people that we're now running out of aspect or widget X or widget Y from that scenario. So it's exciting along those lines, from the chemical companies that are doing different things. A company that makes bed sheets is using it a completely different way, where they just want to track simple basic scenarios. They don't need to get too deeper involved with it. Other companies are building out massive amounts of systems and using this as the front end to everything but their CRM and their ERP package. This is the portal for their business and how they want to design it. And each application within the system is then assigned to a particular owner if you want to go that way, and then they can actually do their own thing with higher level security sitting on top. And that kind of summarizes the scenario I wanted to give you guys a pitch for today. I don't see, is there any questions coming in?
Rod, we had one question before you guys started on the Velocio example. One of our attendees wanted to see an example of a company, but I think you showed that with our Velocio example there, so I think he answered that question. And we don't actually have any other questions. Oh, hang on, one's coming in right now, just a second. Okay, no, we were just actually got confirmation that we did answer that question. So
okay, great.
No, I don't see anything else right now. If anybody's got a quick last question they'd like to type in here real quickly, we'll be happy to get to that. Okay, we got a couple coming in here, so hang with me here, Rod, Bert. Let me get these here. Have you had any unique issues with healthcare companies? At my company, we have a lot of firewall concerns and an aversion to using the cloud.
No, we've not had any issues yet, but it's something that we pay attention to because of all of the your customer stuff. And if your data's if it's on a local server here in the US, or if your company has a partner in France, how does all that healthcare data move, and do you have to normalize that data? So within the security setup within our system itself that we've designed, used in Active Directory, we can regulate that stuff. If we need to build in a process where the documents that get put into the system, we need to recognize social security numbers and apply black marks and mark that stuff out. There are some third-party tools out there that we can leverage to kind of help us with that intelligence and that AI to say, this is something that shouldn't be in the system. We need to block this stuff out to normalize that data that's not in a database. So we haven't had any issues with it yet, but it takes a lot of planning to get it done right, particularly with the healthcare stuff and your own personal information.
Okay, I've got one more here, actually a couple more here. So are there any API ties to Confluence to pull out data and show in SharePoint?
There's connections. If there's an API connection, we can pull it into the system itself. When you add up these, build out these particular processes, it gives us the access to say, all right, you want to do it this way, you want to present the data, whether it's a built Twitter feed or your own custom API to your own custom application. If we can get to that API, we can use the framework to then access that data into our system, whether it's moving it, presenting it, if just doing a read, or if we need to pull it into the system that someone else can then start editing it and then even sending it back. So it can be there's still an integration process, but this can be the engine built in and around it.
Another couple here. Can SharePoint connect with Microsoft NAV with workflow?
Microsoft NAV, yes. I have not done that myself, and I say with full confidence that it can do that. It's from a native aspect of working within the systems and moving that stuff around and catching those files and that information. I don't see us having any issue or really difficult. What you want to do with it inside of SharePoint might be a different story, but we can certainly connect to those other applications.
Okay. Another one, follow-up to the healthcare question. So you're saying AI can recognize anything that would violate HIPAA. Is that correct?
That's a broad statement. Hopefully I didn't state it that broadly. It's there are ways that if one document is coming in and it's always the same form and the social security number there or the other HIPAA laws apply to it, we can put that stuff in. If you want to go through the process, I'm trying to work through my head here. If the document needs to be scanned, OCR'd, and then understood, and then applied a process to, I've not seen that happen, but I've not gone looking for that yet. The aspect of OCRing a document and blacking something out, I have seen done, and that's not an issue. But doing the AI of the OCR and then extracting that data from a document itself, not just a database, but a document. I don't know about that yet, but I'm taking a note now here. If you want to contact myself, Bert, or Rocky after this, I can kind of go further with that because that's piqued my interest, and I want to see if we can do that.
Yeah, great. That might be a good follow-up to dive a little deeper into that. One more question here we've got currently. Again, if anybody else has anything, please go ahead and type that in. Can I use this to connect multiple systems together? Question mark. We use lots of files in Excel to load data into GP. Can this help with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if these files are picked up from FTP sites or whatever the process is to get the files, we could build the apps and the flows to pick up the data, make that decision process in the flow and say, all right, send it to this system. And if it needs to be scanned or reacted, or even part of a flow, someone has to read the document first and then approve the next step. And it's an approval process, like an onboard hiring kind of scenario. We can definitely do that, pick up the data, put a process around it, or even just contain it and then send it through to another system, where you used to have multiple smaller applications doing that. And you'd have to go check this server to see if those files have moved, and this other system would see if that file has moved, and are they all working, and where was the dump for everything that didn't go. Yeah, well, this is designed to actually be your center of collaborative information. This, we could put a dashboard on that, and you can see which ones failed, which ones are going good, spikes, and even do summary data on that stuff within the this in combination with the Power Platform. It's quite extensive.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Rod. I think that looks like that's all we've got in right now as far as questions. So, Rod, did you have any other closing comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, the biggest one is the challenge, like that HIPAA one. There's solutions out there, and if it's not out there, we can build it. If it's tech, these things are designed to be collaborative, and the whole concept is, intelligent workplace. So if there's a need for it, if somebody isn't doing it, we can do it ourselves. It's that kind of challenge. Like I said, if there's another application that does something better, then let's use that. But for these things that we need to build and design and increase, even just small efficiencies, a lot of small efficiencies being increased are equal to large jumps and bounds. We wouldn't build an ERP system in SharePoint, but we can certainly access all the data within the CRM systems, ERP systems, and all the other systems that we've got as a way to manage and monitor all that data. So it's the challenge of building something that can't be done. Like I said, we haven't really struck out on that, which is awesome.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap things up here. I want to certainly thank everyone again for joining us today. We hope we see you again here in the future on one of our upcoming webinars. So on behalf of Rod and Bert, again, thank you for your time. If you do have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your CSM. And if they can't answer them for you right away, they will certainly be more than happy to get Rod or Bert or anybody else on our team engaged with you to help answer whatever questions you might have. So once again, thanks for attending. We appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.